When you find yourself in danger and you're threatened by a stranger, when it looks like you might take a licking, bark, 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 there is someone waiting who will hurry up and rescue you. Just squawk for Super Chicken. Fred, if you're afraid, you'll have to overlook it. Besides, you knew the job was dangerous when you took it. Bakak! He will drink his super sauce and throw the bad guys for a loss, and he will bring them in alive and kicking. Bark, 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 bark. There is one thing you should learn when there is no one else to turn to. Squawk for Super Chicken. Bakak! Squawk for Super Chicken. Bark, 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 bark. Bark, bark, bark. Bark, 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 bark. Bark, bark, bark.
Welcome to another episode of Countdown. This time we're talking about Superman Returns, the 2006 motion picture by Bryan Singer. Look, I'm just going to start out right out of the gate. We're going to talk about all kinds of things.
Wait, I need to know what you're going to talk about.
I'm going to talk about all kinds of things.
Is it about this movie?
Is it
or
about
is it about what Justin just did? Or do we not talk about that?
No, we're just going to we are just going to accept that Justin.
We're accepting that he knew how the song went. Or did you make up music to go with those lyrics?
That's how the song goes.
No, he learned it.
And you memorized it.
Oh, yeah, I've got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, watch out, musical theater world, because this is going to be Justin's new song for all auditions.
Yeah, he may not bring takes as hot as that to the movie we're supposed to be doing today. So
Paul, the year was 1967,
right?
And the George of the Jungle show needed an additional cartoon. In walks Super Chicken. Did you not listen to the entire last podcast?
To be clear, it's still being edited, but that's a whole other thing. All right,
Hey,
so
I'm ready to throw a wrench into your works.
Okay, go ahead.
Because before Superman Returns, there was a little movie that J.J. Abrams was going to do on Superman.
I saw that in my research.
Before that, there was a little movie.
Wait. What was the name of the J.J. Abrams Superman movie?
Oh, I've got it all right here, my friend.
Okay,
I even have the
it
plot
was
synopsis.
called Flyby. Yes.
No, and the script for this is bonkers.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Remember how Superman 3 was bonkers? This is bonkers. But before even that, during the 1990s, there was a little movie called Superman Lives that never happened.
Yes.
Yes, there's a fantastic documentary
Wait,
about
is that the Nicolas Cage one?
It is.
Yeah. Just the outfit test, the Superman outfit test alone, you're like... So it's like somebody watched a lot of the Flash Gordon movie and said, let's do Superman like Flash Gordon from 1980.
The whole thing looked like it was going to be a mess, but there is a fascinating documentary called The Death of Superman Lives, which is fantastic. The film was going to be directed by Tim Burton, produced by John Peters, who's one of these old school asshat movie producers from way long ago. If you've seen the movie Shampoo with Warren Beatty from yesteryear, where he plays this arrogant guy who's just so caught up on himself, who's got this beautiful hair, and he takes care of women and their hair and sleeps with all of them. John Peters says that movie was literally written about him, that it's his unofficial biography. This guy, like, if you watch any interviews with him, he's one of those people that you just absolutely loathe.
Well,
I just want to say, before we get too far into the plots and the description, I think it needs to be acknowledged that the amount of money that Superman Returns made, if I can get to it, because you're probably going to bring it up, it's like $302 million or something.
$391 million worldwide.
$391 million, and the budget for Superman Returns was
like $248.
And why was it
$270 million?
And why was it $270 million?
Because they'd already paid $20 million to Nicolas Cage.
And they wrapped all of the previous money of development into the budget.
Yeah.
They were line items for. That's why this budget was so high.
There were two previous films which were all worked into that. And actually, Nicolas Cage never actually took the $20 million. So they said he gave it back. He never gave it back, but he never actually took it, even though he had a pay-or-play contract for Superman Lives. Anyway, as I was saying, produced by John Peters.
Wait. But you can't go just fly by John Peters, because...
I like that we just keep interrupting each other. What is this, Smartless?
Whoa. That's what I'll just call the name of this episode. But there are two great ways to learn more about John Peters. Kevin Smith's story. Listen to that story with the giant spider. It's incredible. Or watch Licorice Pizza, where Bradley Cooper plays John Peters.
Literally plays him, yeah. This story of Superman Lives Would feature Brainiac, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday as villains. Kevin Smith, Wesley Strick, and Dan Gilroy wrote different screenplays. Ooh. It was to star Nicolas Cage as Superman, Clark Kent, Chris Rock as Jimmy Olsen, Sandra Bullock as Lois Lane, and Christopher Walken as Brainiac. I mean, this is out there. This is right up there with...
Did we not learn anything from Superman 3?
I was going to say, did we not learn anything from Batman and Robin, or the sixth Batman, whatever that was? I mean, Mr. Freeze and all over again. This is just so full of crap.
Well... before we go into all of the details of these, we should at least talk about what the storyline is of Superman Returns.
Okay.
So this film actually takes place after Superman 2. Bryan Singer decided he wanted to make a sequel and pretend like Superman 3 and Superman 4 did not exist.
Which is a great idea.
It's a great idea, and probably
should do this for this podcast, but I got outvoted. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably the right choice. I think he's actually come out and said that he actually felt like maybe that was a mistake. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was absolutely the right choice. So anyway, the storyline, as I remember it, is... It's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Superman went away because scientists on Earth found remnants of Krypton. So apparently he was able to fashion some sort of Kryptonian ship to return to essentially the scene of the crime where Krypton exploded.
Right.
Now I want to pause there for 1 second to say they keep putting things in these movies that I would like to watch. I want to see Superman go to Krypton. What does he encounter? And he was gone for 5 years.
Yeah.
So was that 5 years of travel? Because I guess it was, right? Because how old was he when he landed? He was a baby when he left Krypton.
Right.
And how old was he when he landed on Earth?
Like 3.
So it took him 5 years. He got lost.
You assume he could fly faster than
he went both directions.
The spaceship. And he went both directions.
Right, yeah. He visits the remnants of Krypton and he leaves Earth behind. In that time, Lois Lane, heartbroken Lois Lane, writes an article called Why the World Does Not Need Superman,
yes,
for which she is going to win the Pulitzer Prize. Cut to 5 years later where our movie picks up, and Superman's back. He crash lands, finds his old home in, what is it, Kansas? It's supposed to be Kansas?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kansas. And
Except they shot everything in Australia and Wales.
And yeah, I mean, who doesn't love Wales?
Right.
It's beautiful, right?
Do you know where orcas go on vacation?
No. Don't do it.
Ireland.
Of course. All right, you've jumped straight into We haven't talked about Superman Flyby.
Wait a second. But
there were two
the people need
Superman
to know
movies.
the story
Yes.
of what we're here for.
Right.
And then we'll do... Okay,
and then
all right.
we'll go back.
All right. Let me just say this.
Wait, Sean's right. We need to talk about the story for the movie first and completely ignore it for 5 or 10
Yes,
minutes.
thank you
Okay,
very
good.
much,
then come
Paul.
back.
I got it.
All right, I'll try to truncate it. All right,
Speaking for the
Superman's
people.
back. He meets up with his mom. He comes back into the world. He decides to basically pick up his old life. He finds out that Lois Lane has a kid and she's married. Are they married?
She doesn't like labels, so
She
they
doesn't
dodged
like-
that question.
All right, so they don't really say it, but she's with another man. Lex Luthor gets out of prison, stoops an old lady, and she dies, not while stooping, but just she actually does die.
Killed her.
We don't know
Well,
that it wasn't.
She does say she had a lot of pleasure. That line alone is cringeworthy. I had a lot of pleasure, Lex. Anyway, she signs everything to Lex. He's now rich again. He's free. He's free because Superman was out of town looking for Krypton, and he was supposed to go to Lex Luthor's court date, so he got out of prison because Superman didn't show up as the key witness. Thanks, Superman. Anyway,
Thanks, Obama.
Anyway, Superman finds all this stuff out. He's kind of getting the lay of the land, and of course, he's going to have a quick interview with Lois Lane. Now, and of course, Clark Kent's back and all that great stuff. And of course, the kiss worked, by the way. The kiss erased her memory. She doesn't remember crap, right? This girl doesn't remember anything. She has no idea what's going on. But Superman comes. He's going to meet up with him on the roof of the Daily Planet. Right? And he's like, I want to show you something. What do you want to show me? I don't know what you want to show me. Oh my God, this is incredible, right? They fly up to the sky. This is one of my favorite parts though, right? Because seriously, they're up in the sky and you're like, oh my God, we're going to get another, can you read my mind? You're going to get another one of those. No, you didn't get another, can you read my mind? What do you get? What do you hear? I don't hear nothing. I don't hear anything.
I don't hear
right?
anything.
I hear everything.
Yeah.
And they're all calling for help. I love that moment. It's so poignant and it's so telling. And she kind of reveals some other things, and then boom, end of that scene, they go on, right? Lex Luthor, meanwhile, has remembered exactly how to get to the Fortress of Solitude. He's like, 3rd star on the right, straight on till morning, right? So he goes to the Fortress of Solitude, and he talks to Marlon Brando, Superman's dad, right? Jor-El, he's there, and he gets all the information. Tell me about the crystals, right? And so he learns all about the crystals, and he takes the crystals. And he tests the crystals by going back to the mansion that he stole from the dead lady, right? Apparently, he had a lot of time on his hands where he made a town, a fake town, just like in Beetlejuice, of the entire local town. And he puts a little piece of the crystal into this water, and it makes the entire eastern seaboard go dark, right? Everybody loses electricity. Like, what happened? I don't know what happened. What happened? Nobody knows what happened.
Wait, this is a reminder of the plot or a full recap?
This is a full recap of the movie.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about any pre-production. We're not going to talk about casting.
No, let him keep
We're not
going.
going to.
All right, let me try.
We're only 6 minutes in.
All right,
You're right.
drinking a Coke.
Wait, let me try to truncate this. Okay. All right. So Lex has got this thing, and he's got a great idea because now he's going to combine the crystals with some kryptonite so that when he makes land, because everything's about land with Lex Luthor, right? He is going to make land
And Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah, so he is going to make land that has kryptonite, so of course Superman can't be there. He can't do anything. He is going to lose his powers by going there. Crazy good idea, Lex. Way to go. All right. So now we cut to, all right, I'm just going to jump ahead. All right. Lois Lane ends up on the boat, and after they make the land, and then she gets stuck in this thing. We find out that this little kid, the little boy that she has, is actually Superman's kid, and he throws a piano and kills this bad guy, which is one of my favorite moments. Totally unexpected. I love that moment. Super fun. And Superman tries to stop Lex Luthor. Then, of course, he realizes it's kryptonite, and Lex Luthor totally beats him up. He falls off the thing. But then Lois Lane comes with her husband, boyfriend, whatever he is. We don't like labels. And then they save him. And then he goes back. He picks up the whole thing, throws it into space, and Lex Luthor runs out of gas on an island. Superman realizes now, for the first time in his life, he is not alone because he has his son. And the son becomes the father becomes the son, the Holy Ghost, amen. And and now Superman is okay with himself. He doesn't feel alone. That's why this is the whole point of the movie. He went to Krypton because he felt alone. And now he doesn't feel alone. We have fulfilled the objective. You're welcome.
This has been the Movie Guys. Countdown to 9. That's Sean Blodgett. That's Paul Preston. The Movie Guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll
Justin
talk to you
Bowler
next
of the
week.
world. Everybody got that.
Holy crap!
I've only had half of this Coca-Cola.
Jesus, did you know? It looks like you did 3 lines of cocaine. Oh my God.
You know that could have been truncated. You said it could have been truncated.
Right.
I might have truncated it too. Hey, when you bring up the ending, I have a thought on it.
Yeah. For those of you that just skipped all of that and were waiting until we started, Superman returns to Earth after spending 5 years in space examining his home world, Krypton, but things have changed when he returns.
I'm surprised it's not weirder considering John Peters produced. John Peters produced your monologue.
Yes, he did. Crap. Do we want to know about Flyby?
I do.
I want to know about Flyby. Absolutely. I just wanted to set up. I just wanted to set the scene. Look,
very much
we're
doesn't
only
seem
15
that way.
minutes in. Guys,
Right.
every episode we've done has been 3 hours, so it doesn't matter anyway.
14 and a half minutes. We're a recap of Superman.
I'm going to set the
Returns.
scene of an old movie by recapping a newer movie.
Guys, before we jump into this, I just watched all of Super Chicken, the entire season. I'd like to recap every episode.
You know what? That's fair. Go ahead.
Woo! 2002. Did we do introductions? Do we want to do introductions?
You think
I
you
mean,
just did.
people know who we are.
There's no
all right?
time.
All right. There's no time. I'm Sean Blodgett. That's Justin Bowler of the world. And that's Paul Preston. And we're having a great time. Go.
2002 Superman called Flyby. J.J. Abrams It was an origin story that included Krypton besieged by a civil war between Jor-El and his corrupt brother, Kata-Zor. Now, before Kata-Zor sentences Jor-El to prison, Kal-El is launched to Earth to fulfill a prophecy. We're drastically changing the folklore here, in case you haven't noticed. Adopted by Jonathan and Martha Kent, he forms a romance with Lois Lane in the Daily Planet. However, Lois is more concerned with exposing Lex Luthor, written in as a government agent obsessed with UFO phenomena. Are you with me? Clark reveals himself to the world as Superman, bringing Kata-Zor's son, Ty-Zor, and 3 other Kryptonians to Earth. Superman is defeated and killed, and visits Jor-El, who committed suicide on Krypton while in prison, in Kryptonian heaven. So, are you following me? Jor-El killed himself in prison, and then in Kryptonian heaven, now that Superman is dead, they sit and chat. Then, resurrected, Superman returns to Earth and defeats the 4 Kryptonians, while the script ends with Superman off to Krypton, leaving a cliffhanger for a sequel.
Here's the thing.
Oh, God.
Was Superman lonely at the end?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't understand why none of these folks just go to the comic books.
Right.
The source material
100%.
is rich
Yeah.
with all kinds of good stories. There's some bad ones too, but it is rich with great stories. Seriously.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And reinventing. I see something like that and I say, I think you reinvented because you don't want to go to the trouble of reading everything. It's my same problem with the sequel series of Star Wars, The Last Jedi. Ryan Johnson says, no, I'm going to turn Star Wars on its head. I'm going to totally change it. I think that he said that because he didn't want to do any of the homework that is required to follow all of canon and go, gosh, I need to write a story within these parameters. He's like, no, I'm not going to bother reading anything. And he comes up with half a movie about horse racing. I mean, God, I hated that movie. Anyway, Brett Ratner was hired to direct in September of 2002
Still love that movie.
for Superman Flyby. Originally expressing an interest in casting an unknown, however, he did approach Josh Hartnett and Jude Law, both as Superman. But he wanted an unknown because he believed that there's a Superman curse. No star necessarily wants to be stuck with this forever.
I thought Jude Law was supposed to be some sort of brainiac thing.
Later, Jude Law became attached as Zod. But this is the crazy thing. Hartnett was on. We're talking Josh Hartnett. Hey, what was the last thing that Josh Hartnett was in? Anyone?
Currently, The Bear.
Right? Before The Bear? What's he been doing for the past 20 years, I guess is my question.
Well, he was also in The Trap.
Okay. So he
was in The Bear Trap.
Sorry, you're asking the wrong guy.
Right.
Because he's done some stuff.
I'm guessing in the past 20 years, he's probably made $1 million. Josh Hartnett was offered $100 million for a 3-picture deal, but turned down the offer.
Wow.
Josh Hartnett.
Why would you?
$100 million. Even going back to 2002, okay, Josh Hartnett was hot in Not Another Teen Movie, coming off of that, right? Like he was a spot, one of those kids in that, wasn't he?
I don't know.
No, was he not? I don't remember.
I don't know.
And then he did...
We're not counting down to a new one of those. That's okay.
And then he was in the movie with Matthew Broderick and... You know, I mean...
Here's what I know.
Yeah.
He was in Hollywood Homicide with Harrison Ford.
Okay.
So that's all.
There you go. He was. Okay.
But
now, is he turning down $100 million deals?
Oh, no. But the thing is, his best acting is recently.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if he would have been great then.
Yeah.
His stuff was good then. He's quite good now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's my opinion, of course. But that maybe time does that.
Anthony Hopkins is Jor-El. And then Ray Fiennes was also originally attached to be Lex Luthor, but he ended up dropping out. Some of that casting, I think, is great.
Sounds like it ended up in Man of Steel.
It actually did. Parts of this did end up in Man of Steel.
Because some of that stuff you were talking about, I was like, oh, that feels like Man of Steel.
These were different people that auditioned for Superman during this. Now, remember, this is 2002 for Superman Flyby. 2006 is Superman Returns. So there ended up being a lot of crossover.
Right.
But these were people that auditioned. Josh Hartnett, Paul Walker from Fast and Furious, Matt Bomer, Brendan Fraser.
Matt Bomer. I like that.
Ashton Kutcher turned it down because of That 70s Show. David Boreanaz, I can see him. He's a little more Batman-y, in my opinion, than
he's
Superman.
kinda dark.
Ian Somerhalder.
Yep, from Lost.
Yeah. Henry,
Wait, who was he in Lost?
Boone. He was in Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
He'd be okay.
Henry Cavill, obviously, who later went on to play. And then Hayden Christensen as well. No. Jerry O'Connor and Victor Brown. Jerry O'Connell, excuse me. What's
A
interesting
lot of
is
Brits
that,
in the mix.
yeah, Jerry O'Connell later went, and Matt Bomer both went on to do voices as Superman in animated movies, which is kind of fun. After Brett Ratner was out, McGee stepped aboard, changed things up a little bit. Lex Luthor. He attached Robert Downey Jr. As Lex
Well,
Luthor.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, 100%. Make him bald. Do it. Wild stuff, in my opinion. That was all I had on Superman Flyby. Now, Sean, is there something else you want to talk about for 15 minutes, or should we go into like how much it made and when it was released?
We're on to Superman Returns?
We
We got to
are.
talk about what it was about first.
Okay.
Wait a second. Superman Flyby, I want to say, the fact that it was going to be a J.J. Abrams piece.
Yes.
J.J. Abrams has a real challenge as a filmmaker. That is, he is a brilliant setup guy.
Yes.
He's amazing at setups.
He's very good at the first and second act.
Yeah, I mean, so good, right? But like the final act is really where it all falls apart with him. The one thing that are you okay over there? What is happening? You're like, what is it? Oh, he's trying to get. So I'm having Coca-Cola. Justin's having hard seltzer, and Paul's just over here in the corner looking like, what are these idiots doing?
So for people, you might notice, Paul's at ease like he normally is.
Yeah.
I'm goofy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what is going on with Super
That is
Bunny
not
over
your
here.
first Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that's my first one. I
Wow.
haven't even had the whole thing. What I want to say about Superman Flyby and all of these Superman movies is there are good stories to be had, I feel like, with this character. And we have yet to get there. We have gotten a great origin movie in the original Superman movie.
Yeah.
We have gotten a marginal good fight movie with Superman 2. Superman 3 and 4, question marks of whatever tolerance level you have of that. And then Superman Returns. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about this film, but I'm just going to throw it out before we get too far. I really like this movie.
What's it about?
So Superman's been gone for 5 years, right? No. I really like this movie, but I still find myself watching it and them revisiting these same moments, these same scenes, which we've already talked about in our last episode, a little bit about our concerns with the newest Superman movie. And are we going to have this same problem again? I mean, we already know from the trailer, like, he gets interviewed by Lois.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, I sent that text to you. My immediate reaction was, oh, God, another. Let's get past this. Let's get to the next thing. And so I'm hoping we get to that. Anyway, I just wanted to say that just because.
Yeah, well, most people like the second movie of anything because the first one spent so much time in origin. Okay, now
Right.
we're done with that. Now it's time for bad guy fighting.
100%.
And then they don't get the bad guy fighting.
Well, they kept saying that the sequel to Superman Returns that Bryan Singer never got to do was going to be his Wrath of Khan. That he kind of looked at Superman Returns as Star Trek the Motion Picture. The sequel was going to be like Wrath of Khan. We were going to start out with action right out of the gate. Again, we talk about Spider-Man Homecoming or, Spider-Man Far From Home or any of those, and it's just like, boom, right out of the gate. We're like,
we've
we're
done it.
jumping in,
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Released June 28th,
Wait,
2006.
I'll say one last thing.
Yeah.
That is the theme of the. But I was impressed that everyone seemed to like Superman in this movie. When he gets back and he saves the plane, everyone's like, woohoo! And then when he gets in trouble, we're like, oh no!
Yeah.
And then he comes back heroic again. Yeah! Like they seem like they like Superman. Can we just keep that going?
I agree with you with that. Like, I do agree that they...
Not ever, but then we get Snyder in there, of course, and everyone hates Superman.
What I like about that is he explores the fact that everybody does love him. Everybody almost wants a piece of him almost, right? Because he is in some ways this savior figure, right? They really doubled down on that kind of idea in this.
Christ
But
pose.
yeah, exactly.
Several times.
But at the same token, he feels completely alone. And that is part of the personal struggle that I think that they did a good job in this movie with.
Yeah, I thought it was more effective here than it was in Zack Snyder's, where they just hammer you over the head that he's alone.
I like you
He's
guys.
alone.
If I erased your memories, though, I'd feel alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Released June 28th, 2006.
Where am I?
The
Who are
budget,
you guys?
the budget
I
was
kissed. You couldn't see it, but I kissed Sean.
the budget was $270 million because they wrapped in all of the money they had spent on pre-production for the 1990s version and the 2002 version. I mean, there's got to be, what would you think, 70 million of that?
Yeah.
Maybe 100 million of that is just the previous movies. I mean, set up to fail. Opening weekend, $52 million is all it made. 52. International gross, as we said before, $390 million.
By the way, because of that number being what it is, there, one of the things I watched, there was this question at the time of the release, because it didn't skyrocket, right? That, do people want this? Is this something people want?
Right.
And that's a question too. That's it. That's all I got. But thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and listening.
Well, what I think they want is, Superman's doing stuff. He's got his plucky reporter girlfriend at his side, and they're fighting crime. And, instead he's like a creepy dad who doesn't have visiting rights. And he's got to go inside.
He does creep out once or
It's
twice.
like, I don't want to see that either,
Directed by Bryan Singer, who made the X-Men movies.
And by the way,
made two of them, the good ones.
They were great films,
Yeah.
and he was supposed to finish that, and then he walked away to do this one.
Yeah,
there was a question about his rate. That was what part of the argument was, that he was fighting, I don't know, for a better rate or something like that, and in the midst of that, I guess they plucked him for Superman.
I don't know. I have a friend who hated X-Men 3 and also hated Superman Returns, and he blames Bryan Singer for both of them.
I mean, I think that's...
He walked away from something he was doing awesome at, went and did something that was just mediocre.
I mean, I think that's fair.
Brought in the same writers as X-Men and X-Men 2, Mike Dougherty and Dan Harris. Stars Brandon Routh, Kevin Spacey, Kate Bosworth. This was back when we liked Kevin Spacey, before we knew all this.
And so did Singer. Truly got him his first Oscar.
Yeah,
So they
this
were
is true.
tight. And,
By the way, Brandon Routh, man, there's just moments where he is so...
endearing,
and
charming,
he's wonderful,
likable,
and
believable.
It's
everything.
Christopher Reeves is sort of
100%.
the essence of his energy. Obviously not him, but he honored him in his performance. Yes. I was watching the beginning of it, and I was like, this guy is just doing such a beautiful job with this role.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of his for quite some time. I think Brandon Routh is absolutely outstanding, just because I find him so likable.
Yeah.
In everything that he plays.
Yep.
the sad thing is he doesn't have a resume much larger than Josh Hartnett's.
No,
which
he
is a
does
shame.
not.
And seeing as how great he was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, I wanted more Brandon Routh. And he worked a ton. You'll find him in all over TV. And of course, he came back. Obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about his return to the DC universe. But
the gentleman who plays,
but I would have liked more.
The gentleman who plays Luthor in the Superman show, who has a podcast, I forgot his name offhand. He interviews a bunch of different celebrities, and he had Brandon Routh on the show, and they were talking about all of this. And to Brandon's credit, he just kind of is very vulnerable and was like, yeah, I mean, just everybody was telling me this was going to be, you get this role and you think this is going to be the biggest thing in the world. And so you kind of get an ego and you kind of get to this place where you think you're going to have this huge thing. And then it didn't happen. He was kind of waiting for the offers and the things to happen, and then they didn't.
Yeah.
And then I think by the time they didn't, like, time had passed.
Right.
So then he kind of had to reinvent himself a little bit. So.
And on top of that, even going into this, Brandon Routh auditioned for Smallville, losing it to Tom Welling, and then Tom Welling isn't Superman in 2006. No, it's Brandon Routh. So it's like he's got to think, I'm on the upward trajectory here.
Right,
I am going places.
Right.
Superman Returns on IMDb has a 6.1 out of 10.
Huh.
On Rotten Tomatoes has a 74% audience score.
6.1 seems unfair.
Well, this is interesting because it is number 66 in the all-time worldwide box office for superhero movies. Number 66. I'm going to give you a few that rank higher than Superman Returns.
Go for it.
Black Adam made more money than this movie. Is this movie better than Black Adam? I'm going to say yes. This movie has so many flaws.
Even adjusting for
Adjusting for inflation.
Wow.
Black Adam made movie. all 3 of the Venom movies made more money than this.
Yeah, those just make money. It's weird.
And
And they're all okay. Everyone's okay with them.
I
And they make a ton of
haven't
money.
seen one.
X-Men Apocalypse, the terrible one with Olivia Munn, made more money than this movie. And
Have you not seen Dark Phoenix?
I actually haven't seen Dark
there you
Phoenix. Hancock made more money than this.
By the way, it's Hancock, not Handcock.
All right, I have a question for you guys. Here we go.
Okay, all right.
Because while I was going down this rabbit hole, these are the percentage of critics. This is what critics rated them on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, and these are I want you to put these films in best to worst.
Okay, best to worst. Got it.
On Rotten Tomatoes,
Okay.
according to critics. Okay.
Superman movies.
No.
No. Oh,
The superhero movies.
Okay.
Slight tangent because I went down the rabbit hole.
right.
All right. Your choices are Madam Web, Supergirl, Morbius, and Quest for Peace. Superman 4.
So top to bottom.
Yes.
Okay.
Which one had the highest percentage point from the critics out of those
Give
4?
them to me again.
Madam Web, Supergirl, Morbius, and Quest for Peace.
I don't know Morbius.
Which
at
one
all.
was best reviewed?
What is Morbius?
Morbius is the Jared Leto one that just came out.
It's a
That came out
Sony
a year
Spider-Man
It's one of the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, movie. It's not good.
Okay.
Yeah, terrible.
I'm just gonna jump in. I'm gonna go Quest for Peace.
Why don't I just ask you which is the best of the 4?
Okay, best of the 4. I'm gonna go Supergirl.
Same.
No.
Yeah.
The best out of the 4 was Morbius.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
This hurts. What was number 2? What was the second best?
Quest for Peace.
We have
Yeah.
Madam Web, Supergirl, and Quest for Peace.
See, I'm inclined to say Supergirl here, but now I'm shy to do that. So Quest for Peace.
Yeah.
Madam Web.
Wow.
What?
Yes, number 2. The third best, or second to the bottom, you've got Quest for Peace and Supergirl.
Well, I have no
which
I
was
have no
worse?
faith in Supergirl anymore.
Well, I'm gonna go Quest for Peace.
Quest for Peace is
Yeah.
better than Supergirl or worse?
I'm just saying on this list, I don't think it's better. I think to me, Supergirl is the best of that lot.
I'm with Sean.
Okay, Quest for Peace, yes, and then Supergirl.
Wow.
This makes me so
Morbius-
sad, by the way, because I loved Supergirl as a kid.
Morbius is 15%, Madam Web 11, Quest for Peace 10, Supergirl 8%.
8% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
so beautiful in it, and I thought it was a good movie. I don't know. I should probably watch it again. But
I've seen that movie once. It was when it was on. They showed it several times. They showed it a lot on HBO, hoping to capture that, Superman 2 vibe from everybody.
That came out when? It wasn't in that 19 years between Quest for Peace.
no, because it was either
Superman
after or
Returns.
before
It was
Superman
before
3.
Superman. It was between Superman 3 and Superman
Gotcha.
4.
Yeah, that's right. Because they spent a lot of money on that film.
But that's not canon, though, right? Canon Group.
No,
Warner
No,
Brothers,
it's
right?
not.
Yeah,
You're
it's
right.
not.
It was the last one
Interesting.
that the Salkin sisters did.
And as we said before, Jimmy Olsen was the only one to make the crossover. into
that's
that
right.
movie.
And even he was like, huh?
Ooh.
2006. Do you know where this landed in the top 10? It did land in the top 10.
I
Superman
do.
Returns.
No, so I won't guess.
Okay. Do you
Oh,
wanna guess?
2006, where it landed in the top 10?
Yeah.
Number 9?
Yeah.
Boom.
That's
Yes,
right.
that's correct. Do you know what number 1 was? Did you already look at this list? Because
I did not, but let me tell you. Let me think for a second. Oh, what
2006.
was going on?
6 of the top 10 films, by the way, are sequels.
I'm going to go X-Men The Last Stand or whatever, the third one.
No, that won't be number 1. Number 1?
No, that was 7.
Okay.
Really?
That was number 7. As terrible as it was.
Batman Begins?
No,
was that
that
year?
was not 2006.
It was not?
No.
That must have been 05.
No.
Okay. Hit it.
Pirates of the Caribbean was number 1.
I hate that movie.
At which one?
Dead Man's
Yeah,
Chest.
that's, no one knows.
One
I
of 'em.
just do not get into those Pirates of the Caribbean movies at all. Just
I think that was the third one.
I've said this before, but like in the early 80s, you look at the greatest movies of all time, they're also the biggest box office hits. Rocky,
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
You know, these are the biggest movies of all time. The Godfather, and they're the biggest box office. Now it's like, which Transformers and which Pirates is
Yeah.
in the top 20 movies ever?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't
I'm
even
just
know
gonna say-
which one it is.
Yeah.
why I don't like these Pirates of the Caribbean. Not because of the performances. I don't like these movies because Pirates of the Caribbean, right out of the gate, I remember sitting in the movie theater being very anxious, excited. I love Pirates of the Caribbean ride, one of my favorite rides at Disneyland. I'm sitting there, the ship comes out of the fog, like one of the most beautiful images, like just so awesome, and then the movie goes downhill from there.
You don't like the first Pirates of the Caribbean?
Nope.
Oh my God! Really?
Asshole.
Yeah.
That movie's awesome.
In fact, it's so awesome, I'm going to spend 15 minutes telling you the plot.
Well, okay. Maybe if I hear the plot again, I might like it. Go
Captain
ahead.
Jack Sparrow is riding on the top of a ship.
With a compass that points somewhere. Pre-production and casting for this movie. Jim Caviezel wanted to be Superman. What do you think?
Well, the Christ pose would mean more if he did that.
I mean, he would have been great. I don't think he could do the comedy, quite frankly.
It would have
you know,
been fine, is what it would have been.
Yeah.
It would have been fine.
I just don't think he could have done the comedy. And I think when you're casting Superman, you're also casting Clark Kent. I mean, that was the stuff that in the original Superman movie and even Superman 2 was so great. And honestly, I'll even argue Superman 3 and 4. The balance between Clark Kent and Superman are awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Chris Pratt also auditioned for the role. That's pretty cool. Can you see Chris Pratt as Superman?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
He's still a little. He's got a little Parks and Rec punch on him, doesn't he? At that point,
I mean, he would, but think about Chris Pratt from Jurassic World, where he's just like takes off his shirt and everyone's just like, Jesus, look at that guy.
Look, I'm not saying he doesn't
50 pounds
physically
of fat, put on 40 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, I mean, physically he could get there for sure. I just think he's too smart-assy. And I think he has a hard time turning that off.
I would agree with that. It would be difficult to turn that around.
Yeah, Caviezel can't do the comedy. He can't bring the gravitas, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The widow of Christopher Reeve believed that Ralph's physical resemblance to her late husband was actually very striking. So she was actually one that was all in when Singer asked her. I thought that
love
was
that
cool.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the get-go, Kevin Spacey was the only actor considered for Lex Luthor. And they literally wrote for Kevin Spacey. I think that shows.
Yeah.
I think that shows a lot, which we'll get to a little bit later. And Singer, Singer and he from Usual Suspects were pals.
Yeah. I mean, putting all of Kevin Spacey's personal life aside, he's great in the role.
He's really
He's great in the role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Claire Danes and Kerry Russell were also considered, along with Amy Adams, who was later cast, but all three of them as Lois. What do you think about Claire Danes or Kerry Russell?
I think it would have been better. Kerry Russell especially.
I think Kerry Russell would have been a stronger choice for Lois Lane.
Yeah. Kate Bosworth, fine actress.
I'm going to go the Jim Caviezel route and Caviezel and say she's fine.
Yeah, she's a fine. I think she's a fine actress. I just
Kerry Russell would have had that Margot Kidder Spitfire.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen her in The Diplomat?
Margot Kidder is dead.
No, I'm talking about Kerry Russell.
Oh, no, I haven't.
If you want to watch Kerry Russell, totally like Lois Lane, kick-ass, like strong woman, The Diplomat. It's a great show. They just did their first season. It'll knock your socks off.
2 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, did they do 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely worth it.
Okay.
They ended up choosing Kate Bosworth because Spacey worked with her on Beyond the Sea. And he was the one who recommended. He said, hey, go check out Kate Bosworth. He said that to Brian, and so he went over. And
I just felt like she was a little too young looking. Margot Kidder had such a power to her.
Yeah,
I
agree.
And Kate Bosworth, although can play that power, and I think she does a good job playing it, when we talk about casting for the screen.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, but, it does. It comes down to these, like, stereotypes. We know we've all been victims of it, right? You end up playing these different versions of yourself when really, like, I can play this over here. Like, yeah, I'm sure you can. I'm never casting you as that because you don't look like it, but I'm casting you as this, and that's great. It kind of felt the same way with her.
I agree. Yeah. I think she's a talented actress, but she does not have that. When Margot Kidder is on screen with Superman, I feel like her energy is holding her own, because she is such a force. And I do not feel that way about Kate Bosworth.
Yeah.
She's fine, but I don't think that that's a force that can fight with Superman.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul? She skews young. You're right. It's best when there's a bunch of adults doing stuff, and it looks that way in the new trailer.
Yeah,
I agree. I love the woman who's playing Lois Lane in the new one. What's her name?
Rachel Brosnahan.
Yeah, I think she's stunning. She's interesting. She has that gravitas, but I also think she brings a little bit of lightheartedness to the role that we haven't had from that role, and I think in a proper way. Yeah. So I'm excited to see her portrayal.
Bryan Singer loves to work with people that he's worked with previously. He originally wanted Perry White to be Hugh Laurie, but Hugh Laurie couldn't do it because of House. Couldn't get out.
He would have been good.
Parker Posey was the only actress ever considered for the role of Kitty Kowalski.
She is the best.
She's the best in everything.
She's the best.
Everything she does, she is great in.
She just commits 110%. And you're just like, I believe everything you're doing.
Yes. You are correct. I believe everything that you say all the time, no matter what you're doing. Cast her as Superman, and I'll believe it.
Yes.
Tam. So, I don't know if you're watching White Lotus, but
Sean Ashmore was offered Jimmy Olsen, but he declined due to Last Stand.
That role in this one, the Jimmy Olsen role in general is in all of these movies, all the way back to even Superman with Christopher Reeve. The role just is outdated. It's just an outdated role.
It's too cliche.
It's a role for another time, and it just doesn't. To me, it just doesn't play. By the way, that's one thing I am interested in the new movie, because like even in Superman Returns, I'm looking at that. I'm like, okay, this was 2006. What year are we supposed to believe this is taking place in? Is it supposed to be the 80s still? Are we supposed to believe this is still the 80s?
5 years later, I suppose, maybe.
We'll get to this when we go through it. I loved that Metropolis seemed timeless to me.
I agree.
I'll
I agree,
get to
and
it
I also
later.
love that it didn't feel like New York.
No,
even
it
though
didn't.
there were moments I'm like, clearly, but
Right.
You know.
Yeah, when we start going through the story, I specifically made a note. When he goes into the newsroom for the first time of the Daily Planet, I rewound it and watched it. In the very distant background, you can hear typewriters. Although you don't see them, but it's just enough, I think, to give you that feel of just like, this is a timeless piece. Yeah. We're freezing a moment in time. This isn't 1980s with our, Mariel Hemingway giant shoulder pads and hair. This could be any time.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's going to be
that.
interesting. But as this progresses, like, how do you, if you modernize Superman and this whole story, I mean, news agencies are gone. I mean,
the Daily Planet
newspapers are gone.
Be a TikTok channel in the new movie?
Probably.
Right? Yeah,
Probably.
I mean,
or a
because
blog?
what did they do with Spider-Man and the newspaper guy?
Yeah, who's online, J. Jonah Jameson.
He's basically doing vlogs, and he's all that kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're still selling a newspaper, but it's really like all this video stuff.
Right.
So I mean, I guess that's where it's going to head with this new one. I don't know. It's interesting.
Singer also brought in John Ottman as the editor and the composer for the film, because that's what John.
I just want to say that is a unique position. I love that.
Yeah.
The someone who scores and edits. I think
Yeah.
that's really cool.
It's crazy, and it's also crazy how good he is at it. And when it comes down to it, if you've ever heard an interview with him, it makes a lot of sense from his perspective.
Have I? Head to themovieguys.net for our interview with John Ottman.
What?
And I want to say this. He came on, talked about Bohemian Rhapsody, then he won the Oscar. So if you're considering coming on the Movie Guys for an interview,
Right.
I suggest it.
Yeah.
You get the Movie Guys bump like John Ottman did.
I mean, it makes sense. I'm working on a feature, and I you end up editing a lot of music, because music is such a part. I mean, sound is so much part of the picture of what you're actually feeling. So I mean, all these things are starting to cross over more and more. I love it.
Who was our old guy who used to take over for in the previous two movies for Williams? Kent Rolfe or something?
Something.
Yeah, I don't know who that is, but
Dolph
Ottman's
Lundgren.
coming
I
off.
It was Dolph Lundgren.
Ottman's coming off two superhero movies. He's a perfect choice, and so I thought he blended the old themes and new stuff as well. There isn't a whole bunch of new stuff that has a theme that's as memorable as the Williams stuff.
Yep.
But it had the same grandiose adventure feel and romance feel. So I thought it was great.
Absolutely. Yeah, Singer is a big fan of pulling in people that he worked with. Same writers, same composer, editor, many of the same actors that he's worked with in the past. So
I mean, I think that's everybody, by the way.
This is really this is really just like, he was like, no, I'm going to grab this person from this project, this person from, like, he really is just giant on that.
Well, I mean, I think it makes sense, though, too. If you're going to attack this huge IP, you're going to want to be surrounded by people that you know and trust.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to be with like somebody who you're like, I don't really know this guy. I mean, he's supposed to be good, I guess.
Yeah.
Have I said the Clint Eastwood story on here before? Real quick, I went to an interview with Joel Cox, one of his editors, and he said the Eastwood doesn't even use a monitor. He watches the actors, and if he likes what he saw, he just kind of goes, "Did you get it?"
Oh, yeah.
And they go, "Yep, moving on."
That's fantastic.
So because he's worked with those guys for 50 years,
Yeah.
and he just knows.
And
They got it.
he knows the cinematographer will tell him if he got
he'll
it
set
or
up
not.
the shot, but then he'll just watch the actors.
Yeah.
By the way, Quentin Tarantino does that. He tends to watch the actors as well. There's something interesting about that. There's an interview with Quentin Tarantino where he says, in a way, when you're on a set like that, like the actors are kind of doing it for the director, right? Like, the director is your audience in that moment, and I love that. And there's something about that connection, knowing that someone's watching your performance in that way, not just watching a monitor, not just watching that and going, okay, well, there was a flare and I don't know if I like that or, whatever it was. It's nice to know that that's happening. So
Bryan Singer stepped aboard. Bryan Singer, huge comic book fan, absolutely rejected J.J. Abrams' script immediately and brought in the two guys, Dan and Mike from X-Men and X-Men 2. Jude Law was originally going to play General Zod in this movie, but Law turned it down, and then as they did more and more edits, just Zod was written out of the script, but later appeared in Man of Steel, obviously.
Well, and I think that was probably to their detriment, because it seems like the majority of pushback on this film had to do with the lack of fight scenes. It really doesn't have a fight scene.
No.
Superman gets, his butt handed to him by these, once the kryptonite kicks in. That's the biggest fight scene in the whole thing, and it's just him getting pummeled, and that's it. Everything else is just him sort of saving the day, jumping in, and then a lot of people, of course, did love the airplane sequence, which I did too. I think it's beautiful.
The airplane sequence is great.
Yeah.
There was a story that I found. Here it is, actually. When Bryan Singer became interested in hiring Brandon Routh, he arranged for them to meet in a coffee shop. When they met at their table, Routh stumbled in, spilled hot coffee all over the table, and panicked because he thought he just lost the part, whereas Singer actually laughed and said, no, it totally helped him because that is 100% Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that
And
story.
I was just like, I was like, that's fantastic. I don't know.
There are, I think as an actor, there are improvisations and happy accidents that happen in auditions.
Yeah.
And when I was first starting out, I was auditioning for this industrial film about people with different personality disorder sort of things, whatever. And the character I was auditioning for was very codependent. And in the callback, we were doing this improvisation, and at one point somebody got up and said, oh, I'm going to go get a water. And I just immediately said, can you get me one too? Which made everyone just lose it and laugh hysterically because, of course, someone who's very codependent and needs help all the time is going to ask, would you get me one too?
But it was genuinely you asking.
Well, no, I mean, I was in the moment, but
gotcha.
it was just an improv. But but again, it's these happy accidents. And again, he had this happy accident.
Yeah.
I'm happy for him. He was great in the role.
Let's launch into the film.
Okay, I love it. Yeah.
First thing that stood out to me, I just wrote music. Sweet, sweet music. Graphics. Sweet, sweet graphics.
I mean, the opening is iconic.
It is. It's 100% iconic.
Yeah, it's sped up over the first one, but also
Yes.
features those kick-ass computer-generated flights through space they couldn't do back then, so that was all pretty cool.
No, and it's such a throwback, but updated. It was everything that Superman 3 or 4 should have been, but it was not.
Now, when you saw Eva Marie Saint's name go by, did you Google her like I did?
No.
Really?
No.
She's 100.
Is she
I was
really?
like, is she still with us? She's still with us.
Oh yeah, no,
She's
yeah.
100.
I just saw that. Yeah, she's 100. Yeah, I actually just saw that. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, I haven't heard of anything about her. She's 100.
Yeah.
She's kicking.
By the way, I still do.
This is going to wrap back around. I'm going to say this is foreshadowing. You and your research and knowledge sometimes cloud my day.
I Googled it.
I know.
Oh, okay, my research.
I still wish we would have seen.
Did you have a whole memorial segment for Eva Marie Saint that I blew? Let's all remember the
Set
great career.
to the theme of Super Chicken.
Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything important. I already said it.
Well, I was going to interrupt you. That's just the theme of the show.
Okay. Well, I still wish we could have seen something with the damn him going to Krypton. This again is like getting the kryptonite in Addis Ababa.
Right.
Like for God's sakes, can we see what the heck you're reading this thing on the screen? Like that sounds amazing. This is like why people made Rogue One, right? A group of soldiers, infiltrated the Empire and they got these plans so that you could destroy the Death Star. And somebody went, I want to see that story. And then they made it and it was great.
Can I do an impersonation of Sean watching Star Wars from 1977? Your father fought in the Clone Wars. Can we see those?
He was a very good pilot when I first met him. Where's the pilot? What kind of ship did he drive? To your point, this is interesting. So maybe I found this and you did not. I was going to mention this when we got to post, but Cal Penn revealed that his role was actually much, much greater. You were going to find out that his original role, he was an agent an undercover
Shield.
reporter
No.
at the Daily Planet. And he's the one who faked a story about Krypton being discovered. And that's why Superman takes off. And it was all a part of a plot by Lex Luthor to get Superman out of here so he can start working on stuff.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of like that.
So you talk about him going out there, all he would have found.
Why don't we
is-
see that?
It's on the cutting room floor. He did just
Yeah.
find a graveyard. And the only reason why he went out there was because Lex Luthor had a plant who came up with the story. Okay, how'd you feel about Lex Luthor getting his money from the old lady?
At first I went, oh my gosh, this is such an interesting sort of storyline. And then I go, ew. Like
Right?
it just gets really kind of violating and strange. Like, I don't know. There's so much about it that's just so strange. How long did they live there?
This
like,
was, yeah.
I mean, because she was the maid. Like,
Right? This was one of my least favorite moments of the film because
Yeah.
it was so cliche. It's like, the woman's dying and it's storming outside, and the whole thing with him pulling off the wig and saying, "You can keep this, but I get everything else." I was like, this. I don't know.
I guess the only thing I thought of right away was, oh, Kevin Spacey. We didn't
Yeah.
get enough of you.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 Oscars is great, but there's lost potential.
I immediately thought to myself, Bryan Singer, would you have done this in an X-Men film? And I don't think you would have. You never did anything with a wink and a nudge.
why did he need to? We've never really needed to justify why Lex Luthor is wealthy.
Right.
Like, he just is. Did we need to justify his wealth? I mean, you
Perhaps
could
prison will take your money away. I don't know.
but you
yeah.
could have had one line again. Back to the Superman. I mean, sorry, Spider-Man. Homecoming. One line about well, it's a good thing that your grandmother died, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and
Well, then you got Sean Blodgett's going, why don't we see that?
fair.
And I said we had said he flew back to Krypton. He didn't. That's something I had remembered, but it's wrong because in the movie we see the spaceship that he returns in coming back from Krypton.
Correct.
Yeah. So he is traveling in a spaceship.
One of you
Yeah, no,
earlier in the
he
show
flew
said that.
there and then came back. Did you say that?
One of you did.
No.
He built some sort of
Well,
ship, but
I
he
like-
landed in the.
No, yeah,
He landed
he
in a
He
ship.
was in a ship,
But he
Yeah.
must have flown there. He couldn't have flown there in a ship.
No,
so he
why
flew
not?
there.
No, he flew there in a ship.
How did he get in?
He's got a
with
whole
his little
damn
fortress of
solitude.
solitude.
You think that allows him
It's
to build
right
a ship?
next to the bathroom that she used
There you
in
go.
Superman 2.
Which I call my bathroom now, the Fortress of
Yeah.
Solitude.
So then he gets to the Daily Planet. I already told you what I thought. I absolutely loved how timeless it was. Even down to the style. It's like, that could be current. It could be the 1960s. I don't know.
Brandon Routh does such a great job playing all of those moments at the Daily Planet without forcing them, while still doing a little bit of a nod to Christopher Reeve,
100%.
while still making it his own.
Oh, yeah.
Really
No,
tough.
so well done.
So, I mean, applaud.
So
Love it.
well done.
Yeah, I like that it wasn't New York City.
Yep.
Yeah, it was its own Art Deco sort of
Yep.
timeless place.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And no 9/11
Although I
reference,
have to
which was
say,
cut from the script.
One of the cringy
Yeah.
moments, though, I have to say about it, though, is when the Daily Planet thing falls, and Jimmy's like, "Chief!" He's just like looking up at it, and I'm like, "Move,
Yeah. Run inside the building.
out of the way!" Like, I mean, yeah.
Paul, you already talked about it. I was going to mention it. Talk about the 9/11 reference that was not used in the movie.
I don't know what it was, but I just know there was going to be one, and that would further cement Metropolis as New York, which I don't need. It can just be Metropolis, which is a comic book place.
The scene
Yes.
that ended up on the cutting room floor. I don't know. I don't think they shot it. Singer said it was in the original script that they ended up cutting. It was Superman at the 9/11 memorial, standing there, and then he says to himself, we literally hear him say, "If I'd have been here, these would still be here." Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
well,
you can't do that.
can't do that.
You can't
Right.
do that. No, that's not.
Yeah.
That doesn't honor anybody.
Right. And on
No.
top of that, in my opinion, it's just like we come to escapism. There's escapism for a reason.
Yes,
You know?
yes.
I don't need this
Well,
reality.
and to your point on escapism, this is the problem with so many of the superhero movies now, where there is this like high level of violence and high, I still want that escapism.
Oh, yeah.
I still want to have that suspension of
Batman,
disbelief.
for crying out loud. Yeah.
Look, it's Wile E. Coyote, right? It's the Roadrunner and Wile E. and they're chasing and all that stuff, and they're going to keep going. right?
Yeah.
But you still want to see what happens, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have here just this was one of my notes from one of the scenes when they came in, going back to the mansion, and it just says, Jesus, the dog ate the other dog. Did you catch this?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a lot of fun with that dark stuff, and also, I mean, at one point, Spacey says, "But a man can always tell when a woman is pretending."
Yes.
And I had the feeling that had a little double entendre going for it. By the end of the movie, it's super dark.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
love those little dark touches early. For some reason, I
yeah.
thought they were fun.
I was fine with all that. But again, they go back to the mansion to do this test. I don't.
Parker Posey at that point says, didn't there used to be 2 of them? But you had already seen all the fur spread around, and the dog is literally chewing on a tiny bone. I was laughing long before she said that. I will say this, and this was just a tiny little moment that I appreciate in Bryan Singer films, because he will grab those little specks that bring it back to reality. When the electricity shut down after the EMP, the Daily Planet thing at the very top of the building stops turning. And I was like, bringing it back to reality. It's not just something on the top. It's just
Right.
like we're showing the city shutting down, and literally the Daily Planet. I don't know. I just thought that was cool.
I agree with that.
I did have a question, though, as to the radius of the EMP and why only one plane was affected. Or were there hundreds of other planes that went down?
Yeah, and he just got to that one.
Good question.
I mean, this is always
He
my,
would
this
have gone
is
because
always
Lois
my
is on it.
argument about Superman, about any superhero and tragedies. There's tragedies happening all over the place.
Yeah.
This movie tries to touch on that a little bit. I like the sequences in this film where he's kind of flying all over the world and sort of involving himself in different things around the world. I appreciate that they tried to sort of acknowledge it a little bit and touch on it. I still don't, I don't think it's enough. It's tough to do. I mean, I don't know how you really facilitate that. But it's always my question, right? Like, here's the most powerful man in the world, and you're like, somebody's robbing your bank, and you're like, Superman, save us. And
Yeah.
like, nope, nobody comes.
Yeah.
Because he's, saving somebody else somewhere else, you know?
I have not seen this movie since the theater. This was literally the second time I've ever watched it. So there is so much of this I did not remember.
Yeah.
The only thing about this that I remembered was, one, overall I didn't like the movie because I had a problem with the ending. I still have a problem with the ending. I like the movie more now in the rewatch. But I did remember there's an airplane sequence in this that is awesome. And I 100% still loved this airplane sequence.
He did a really good job on a visual direction level of doing things that were very comic book moments. Him catching the plane and the physicality of that.
Which is actually a cover of the Superman comics.
Yes, and, obviously the car thing with Kitty or whatever, that's literally the cover
That's
of
Action
Comics.
number 1,
And,
yeah.
So all of that stuff for me was like really, really cool. I love that little wink. And the other thing I applaud this film for, 2006. Let's go back to 2006 for a second, and let's remind ourselves that CG is not great.
Not that great.
It's not great, but it's pretty good in this film.
I felt like they had done something to it to make it better
They
since
probably
then.
did, but it's pretty good for 2006.
Yeah.
There's still some standout things where you go, I don't know about that, but you can see it starting to get better, and
People are still hard to do.
yeah,
They're still rubbery from when Harry Potter was first flying on a broomstick. But I remember seeing Matrix Reloaded and going, "Oh, okay, well, men can fly a little better than they used to."
Yeah.
All kind of wooden and in front of a green screen. But yeah, still a little rough sometimes.
Yeah.
When he was a kid, adult Superman looked great, but for some reason when he's a kid, it looked kind of hokey.
Yeah, that's because I felt like they didn't go back and they didn't redo the stuff as a kid. They only went back since 2006, and they have redone they had to, because I remember in 2006 going, that looks terrible, and it didn't look 2006 terrible to me when I watched it a few nights ago.
maybe you're just more forgiving.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Although I will tell you, I'm sitting on my couch and I'm watching this movie, and I stood up and I applauded when he said, "I hope this experience hasn't put you offline. Statistically speaking, it's the safest way to travel." I just cheered.
That's good stuff.
I cheered. I'm by myself in my office on the couch, stand up, applaud, and cheer.
So again, Bryan Singer did a great job doing the nod to things that we had loved, and maybe bring in some new things and sort of even some comic book nods and things like that. My hope for this new movie is that we get more new stuff than we get nods to old stuff. I'm fine with a wink and a nod here and there, and that was nice. That's a nice throwback. I just don't want it all to be that.
Yeah.
Because even this movie suffers from so much of that, even though there's a lot of new elements, not the least of which is that he has a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Enter James Marsden. I did not remember he was in this movie.
Same here. That's exactly what I was going to say about
From the moment she shows the picture, I instantly went, James Marsden?
That's right. But again, it's a character I don't know necessarily need, hey, isn't it exciting to know that Lois Lane is a Bill Pullman type character who you'll really like and then not want to be with.
But is also, I don't know, I felt like they were sending mixed messages because he's the nephew. They literally say Uncle Perry. He's the nephew of Perry White. So it's like, okay, so you're not good at your job. That's why you're like, I don't know. Why even
I felt
give
like that
him
was a
name?
little bit of a nod to Quest for Peace. The dad taking over the newspaper, and like there was a little bit of a nod to that, maybe.
I don't know.
Nodding to that? That's a choice.
I mean,
of all the things to nod to.
Look, in defense of
Do you
Superman
not remember
4,
Superman 4 was the worst of the 4 movies that I took? It's number 3. I will tell you this. The hurt of watching Lois at home from Brandon Routh, I was like, I've never seen that. And that is spectacular. Like, it just makes me love Superman even more. Like, this is like, I don't know. I just felt like in this movie they got it right. He's alone, yes, and he would love love.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have love.
Yep. The moment that he watches her go up the elevator, I think is beautiful.
Oh, I 100%
And
agree.
They actually maybe slightly overindulge in it, and I don't even care because it's so beautiful.
No,
I love it so much.
If you've ever said goodbye to a loved one and, watch the plane take off or whatever, he doesn't watch her just get into the elevator.
Yeah.
He watches her get into the elevator and he keeps watching her as she's going up the... I thought that was so endearing. I thought it was so lovely.
Yeah, I love it.
Paul?
Shame they didn't end up together.
Yeah, I actually like that they didn't. I feel like that was true to the story that they had established, to the relationships they had established. They had allowed these characters to grow up a little bit, and they allowed him to grow up a little bit in that moment. And I think it was the right choice.
He's too good of a guy to become between them, and she is too set in her ways that she's not going to betray the guy that she's with. And she says that.
I mean,
He's a
she
really
still
good
does
guy.
kiss him to be.
Does he
to
get
be
the
clear.
kid every other weekend or something? I don't know
Well,
how
I mean,
these
that's
things
a
work.
question. It would have been in 2. We probably would have addressed those things, or 3. Did you catch that the news report in the background mentioned Gotham?
No.
I did not.
Yeah. So there is a reference. So Batman does live in this world.
Oh.
Yeah. There was also, going back to showing how charming and subtle and lovely he is, when she hands him his glasses after he falls off, and you can see that moment where he just wants to tell her.
Yeah.
He just wants to say it so much and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, this choice. This is so great. This is so Christopher Reeve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Her taking off her heels.
I love the taking off the heels, and I love that they get up in the air and she doesn't even realize they're up in the air. Love that. I love that.
I love the taking off the heels because it instantly says she's done this before.
Yeah.
She knows the routine, which I then later researched, and they actually improvised that, and it was Kate Bosworth who said they would have done this before. There has to be a routine to this. What am I doing? I would take off my heels to stand on his shoes. Which is exactly what she does.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so, without saying anything, there's a history here.
There is a part of me that, like, the suspension of disbelief of how high they go.
Well, there is that.
And him just look around, like,
Right.
Yeah, this is great. No, you got me right.
It's a little hard to breathe.
Can you breathe? Because I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even after the whole date, like, the pain that he has.
Yeah.
Just letting her go, flying away. Like, I'm always around. Like, you can just tell this guy is hurting. I don't know. I flippin' love this, Yeah.
That's at the end, which I thought you didn't like.
He says twice. No, the ending is what our writers paint themselves into a corner, in my opinion, and they don't know how to get out of it. And so they essentially use a cheat. We'll get to that.
The E.T. moment.
Yes.
E.T. is in the film?
I didn't see E.T. in it.
You haven't seen E.T.? Oh, it's pretty good.
And then there was another moment. The shock and hurt and anger on his face when he realized the Fortress of Solitude has been burglarized. I found it funny, but I also loved it. I was like, oh, he's pissed. Someone came up here and took my crystals. Are you kidding me?
I didn't mind that moment. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
No, I thought it was great. I
Yeah.
thought it was fantastic.
I didn't love it. I didn't hate it.
These are all the things that I'm loving about the film. I haven't even gotten to anything I didn't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he came in, he pushed the buttons on the security system on the wall.
All right.
And he
Saw
hit
who
the
it was.
code. And
He flushed
yeah.
the toilet.
Yep.
It was in the back.
Yep.
He talked about the shoes coming off.
Yeah.
The only clothing thing I thought of was when Clark changes into Superman in the elevator and his clothes fall behind. And I think about all the Clark Kent clothes. This must be scattered across
littered all over.
Metropolis
Let's
and
also-
the world, perhaps.
Let's also talk about that for a moment, because does he shoot just a hole in the building?
I guess so.
They actually do show a little bit of a of the side of the building. Yeah.
Doesn't that seem reckless
a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
on his part? I mean,
There's some,
Shards
there's
of
some
glass
maintenance
falling
guy
on
that's
school
like,
kids.
well, this was gone for 5 years. We didn't have this problem, and now
and now these holes are back.
holes are back.
It was a little heavy-handed for my part. I love the kid being afraid of the kryptonite. I wish they hadn't had Lex's dialogue play into it quite so much.
I'm going to agree, but before we get to finish this moment, we have to jump back to a moment right before when she's first on the boat and she realizes where she is, and they meet up, and I just love Kevin Spacey's, "Oh, Slane." He's
Brushing his teeth. Oh, yeah. It is fantastic.
That is a great thing.
It's who is it? I forget which writer, producer, director said it. It was Brad Bird. Brad Bird said, "Coincidence can always get your heroes into trouble. It can never get them out of trouble."
Yeah.
And that was just one of those moments where it's like, yeah, they happen to be on the boat getting ready to leave, and now you're effed.
Yeah.
Like I really did love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the kryptonite.
But
you felt like it was too heavy-handed with the boy.
The kid being afraid, like you were like, holy crap, and then he has to say it. Whose child is he? You know, it's like I don't know. I felt like we didn't actually need the dialogue.
Agreed. Yeah, show don't tell. We got it.
Right.
Or a
I
smart
mean-
person does, and just rely on us to be smart.
It would have been fine for him to just go, "Who's?"
I will say,
like just
Yeah.
start it and then that's it. That's enough.
I will say this: they followed it up with something that I really liked, because then she says that it's Richards, and then someone comes on the comm and says we've got an unidentified flying object coming in, and his response isn't to that guy, it's to her, but it plays as if it's to that guy, and he says, "Are you sure?" And the guy says, "Yeah, no, we got it. He's on his way." And I was like, I did enjoy that moment. I just thought it was a little heavy.
I agree with that. I actually noticed that too, and I was like, "Yeah, this is fun."
And then another moment where I stood up and cheered, which was great, Caesar's Ghost. I was just like, come on, we haven't seen that in any of them. We've never gotten a great Caesar's Ghost.
Really, Jackie Cooper? Never.
I don't know. I never heard a great Caesar's Ghost from him.
Caesar's
Great
Ghost.
Caesar's Ghost, yeah. The Luke Cage series that Marvel did on Netflix, there's only one moment, and it's completely justified, where he says "Sweet Christmas," and I was just like, yes, Sweet Christmas. I just thought it was awesome. Anyway, side note.
This for you, Bowler.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it is. The moment where Superman saves them as a family.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great plot device that they use, but it just shows that's the good guy.
Yeah.
He's competing against this guy for her love. I'm going to save all three. Do you have them? Because I have you, and I'm going to take you on. I flippin' love that.
Yep.
Yeah. What'd you think about the Marlon Brando voiceover?
It was unnecessary in the callback moment when he's floating through the water. It's also weird that if he's hit with the kryptonite and he's on the kryptonite planet, he doesn't have powers. That's a kill you fall he takes into the water.
Yeah, I mean, all of that should have been much more mortal wounding than what it ended up being.
He would know. He would know there's kryptonite on that planet. He would, 1, sense it as he's flying near it. 2, he would use his X-ray vision to find it. He would also know that there was kryptonite in Lex's pocket, for crying out loud. This is where it really starts to fall apart. Like, there's so much of this movie that I felt like they got right, but it's just like, then you get here, it's like, does kryptonite affect him, or does it not affect him? So if he doesn't see it, it's not a problem, but if he sees it, he's in trouble. So now it's the movie Hot Fuzz.
I'm going to disagree in the sense that I think he was so hot-headed about the way they had painted him was almost like he had been gone and someone had cut him deeply emotionally, who he loved, by basically saying, we don't need you.
Yeah.
And I think as things are starting to go wrong around him, there's a part of him that almost feels like he has to, I mean, for lack of a better way of putting it, prove himself. And he gets caught up in wanting to save everybody and everything. And so I think he gets blinded by that. That's what I interpret that to be.
Yeah.
I don't, that's part of the fun of the Superman character, the vulnerability of him. I mean, he's had all of this sort of education about, I don't know, from his father about galaxies and whatever all that was. But he spends all of that time away from humans while he's doing that. And now he's just spent 5 years away from humans. I just think he wasn't up to snuff. He hadn't been dealing with it.
Yeah, maybe. Out of practice of detecting kryptonite.
Yeah.
I don't know. It bothered me.
Here's the thing. Does anyone care about terraforming?
No.
No, it's not. People like Die Hard. They like guys robbing banks. And so, have they even made a movie where someone tries to steal the gold out of Fort Knox and Superman has to stop them? I mean, that seems like
right.
They got to go bigger and bigger. And then you get really complicated. Like when the Kryptonian land mass comes out of the water and like a ripple runs through like the whole town is screwed. I'm just saying every building in Metropolis is going to need seismic retrofitting after this. The Daily Planet building is forever screwed up.
Yeah.
It's messed up. Like everything is screwed up, despite what Superman might do to like stop. He throws a boulder into space, but despite what good Superman does, he's going to have to spin around the world again to make everything right.
There's just a lot of cleanup from this one, is what you're saying.
Yeah, major. The whole city is wrecked.
So he comes in, throws the asteroid out, and he's like, guys, I'm on vacation. I got a boy to go peep on. You finish up everything else over here, clean it all up.
Yeah.
That's just wrong.
That's like the Norm Macdonald. Hey guys, I took care of the asteroid, and I can't do anything else here.
I thought maybe I'd get a tip or something.
Yeah. I do love and did love her jumping in the water with a dress to save him.
Yeah.
When you see him, don't you immediately go, I got to take this thing off so I can swim? No, she just jumps in with a dress.
I mean, she did finish up that surf movie recently right before she did this one.
That's a good point.
Makes sense.
That is a good point. I also appreciated, and this goes back to the comic book, nice touch. What does he do? He flies up to the sun.
Yeah.
To get refueled, essentially.
Yeah. Which clearly in the new one, we're going to have a lot of that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. We talked about all the religious analogies.
Yeah.
Left, right, and left, right. I mean, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, the crucifix and all that stuff. We again and again and again. I also appreciated when he did hit the ground, he had the perfect curl on his head still.
Yeah. I did notice his curl in the hospital a lot.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop looking at it. It was like, why is that curl like that? I
Speaking-
can't stop looking at that curl. What's happening with his curl? I don't care what's happening right now. Why is his curl like that?
Speaking of which, those doctors, they saw Soup's naked, right? Like, they're like, let's cut this off. Let's check out what the Super D looks like.
That nurse walking in did have a big smile. She had a big smile.
Is every character Norm Macdonald going forward?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, basically.
And then Richard comes in. Hey, Richard's like, does Richard know?
Cyclops.
Does he know Soups is really the dad? That's what I want to know. Does Richard know? Because, at one point she says, he mentions the article, I spent the night with Superman. And it's 100% laced the way he says it. And she's like, come on. But it was like, I assume he knows, right?
Now, I think in the end they do explain it, but my thought was, does she know? Until that moment, does she know that he's Superman's?
Oh, and maybe she's just been in denial or something?
Well, that she got pregnant. She's, Lois Lane, she kind of like...
she's sleeping around.
Yeah, moved on pretty quick.
Everybody gets a turn.
She had to move on with
it's
it.
a lot of,
9 months of him being out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so interesting. I don't know. Did she know up until that moment?
Yeah. I mean, is she, because she says, do you want to help mommy open the door?
She later says that, yeah.
Right? And she's kind of hesitant about it.
Right.
I don't know.
It is a nice turn when he goes to open it up and he opens it up and then the door is open from the other side. I was like, that's kind of clever. Here's a question for both of you. What does she say to him when he's in a coma? What does she say to Soups?
That he has a son.
What do you think, Paul?
I don't know, but this is the E.T. moment, right? I love you, E.T., and then he comes back to life.
Oh,
a lot of movies
that's
did
the
that.
E.T. moment.
That's E.T.
Oh,
That's
what you meant.
Okay.
A lot of movies
I
did that.
didn't
Far
get
and
that.
Away did
Sorry.
that, and a lot of movies did that.
Beauty and the Beast.
I mean, they kiss.
The leaf starts to fall. The last petal starts to fall. She says, "I love you," and then she's like, and then it hits the ground, and then there's nothing, and then all of a sudden,
her teardrop. No, her teardrop. Her teardrop, because the love is in the teardrop.
I'm lost at this.
Could you explain? Could you
no, give us the
Beauty and the Beast
recap
in its
of
entirety?
Beauty and the Beast.
People know what
Okay,
you're
so
talking
Beauty and the Beast, like, okay, so they open up this book, right?
Right.
And then it's like it's a whole story about this like beast.
right, but
and,
I
like,
want you to
the
do
lady
it in the
comes
voice
with
of David Ogden Steers. Go.
Okay, wait a second. There's this beast. You
There's
see?
this beast.
Getting loopy now.
I asked ChatGPT what she says. ChatGPT says that she says, "Come back to me." And then I Googled that. And that's not anywhere. I said, ChatGPT, where'd you get this from? And they said, oh, well, here's a different answer.
I never said. That's ChatGPT going, I never said that.
You know what's funny is I actually know Mike Doherty. We used to be, I wouldn't say we used to be buddies. We used to be friends once upon a time. And I was literally looking for his number because I was going to text him before we came over to say, hey, what did she whisper?
Yeah, that's going to be a lost in translation moment, though. You're never going to find it.
Never going to find it. Here's the funny thing, though, because I was just telling Sean this recently. Okay, Avengers Infinity War. Before Groot disappears, while the snap is happening, Groot says, to Rocket Raccoon, I am Groot. And later, Marcus and McFeely were asked in an interview, I think it's actually Kevin Smith who asks them, what did he say? And he just says one word. He says, Dad, and that's it. And I was like, oh, heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
As if there wasn't enough Rocket heartbreak.
Right? Yeah.
To me, she clearly whispers that he has a son.
Yeah.
Because then he goes and visits
Right.
him and stuff. So, I mean, to me, it's clearly something
I think
about
so,
that.
too. Which I get, but he could have done from above, looking down. I didn't need to see him in the home. That was a little creepy to me, right? That he breaks into someone's house and watches the child sleep.
Yeah. Well,
Just me?
he legally can't be near the kid in that way, in a paternal way. I want Superman fighting bank robbers. That's all I'm saying. I don't want him dealing with legal issues of parenting.
I actually enjoyed the voiceover of the Marlon Brando lines.
I did too. I agree with Paul. Unnecessary, heavy-handed, but it was fine.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Is it just something he was thinking of, I guess?
I don't know. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a throwback. It's a that whole they have a capacity for good.
Right. I appreciated all of it. In all honesty, I thought it was used just fine, and I
Look at you
adored.
liking this movie.
What's that?
Look at you liking this movie.
Everything but the actual ending. This is my problem. Okay, so kryptonite, if it sneaks up on you, okay, then it's a problem. But it's like if it's there in front, it just didn't make any sense.
Well,
what are the rules that we've established with kryptonite? If it's nearby, it makes him weak. Is that it? Or if he sees it, it makes him weak. He's lifting up the asteroid. Not a problem until it starts to peek out of it. And I can see the green. Okay, now I'm losing strength, but I'm going to will it. I'm going to will it. I'm going to will it. And he's pushing through. Is it a physical reaction or not? Is it a mental reaction? You tell me.
Is it a placebo?
Yeah, I don't know. The ending of this bothered me. Now,
I agree.
I am going to say, I like this movie so much more this time around than I did before. But once again, I'm going to go back to, I'm appreciating the filmmaking, I'm appreciating the writing, and I'm really appreciating the performances that are in this. The third act is just problematic for me. It's just very, very problematic.
Yep. The button with Luthor on the island.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So
he's alive.
It's the wig. It's the
We're-
tearing off the wig cliche.
Well, they're expecting the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, of course.
Christopher Reeve was supposed to have a cameo in this film, by the way. And then he died before they ever filmed it, so they couldn't do it.
That's too bad.
I have stuff about Post. Do we want to hear that, or do we first, just want to jump to fun facts for Superman Returns.
I mean, I'm exhausted already, but go for it. Let's do it.
You wore yourself out to the top.
This has been a 3-hour of... No, I'm joking. Let's do it.
Clark Kent goes back to his home after he gets back. He's lying in his bed. He's looking at the ceiling, the stars on the ceiling.
Yep.
Astronomically correct.
Huh.
Yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson would be very impressed with that.
He would see, like...
Of actual star formations. It's not just some kid randomly placing them. They were actually placed in the correct
Stuff you
places.
see.
where they-
I mean,
Yeah,
that would make
stuff you
sense
see.
for Superman to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Workers constructed 7 kilometers, 4.3 miles of road, and planted 15 hectares. I didn't even know what a hectare was.
Ooh.
15 hectares, which is 37.65 acres of corn to recreate the Kent farm. And this was an especially difficult task because the farm was created during a 7-year drought in Australia. 270 million people.
Yeah, just go to Kansas.
Right? This I thought was very fun. The chemical name of kryptonite is given, you see it listed as sodium, lithium, boron, silicate, hydroxide, and fluorine. In 2007, Dr. Chris Stanley of the London Natural History Museum discovered the very same mineral in Jadar, Serbia, and named it jaredite. But in reality, it's a white powder rather than a green crystal.
Wow.
He actually found a mineral that was what
All
kryptonite
of
should
those
have been.
things.
Yeah, pretty funny.
That is a fun fact.
That is a
That is a fun
fun fact for
For Superman Returns.
During filmmaking, Kevin Spacey would drive around in a golf cart, dragging a stuffed Superman doll behind on a rope. Come on! That's funny!
That's funny.
He's funny. He's got the smarts and the a-hole attitude,
Yeah.
the comedy
Yeah.
of that character down.
Yeah.
But it's a shame he, eventually was accused of sexual deviance.
Yeah.
And so was Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
I only bring that up to say somebody check on Marsden. But go ahead.
Brandon Routh and Kevin Spacey don't share any screen time until 112 minutes into the film.
Wow. Yeah, I guess you're
That's
right.
shocking.
Yeah.
That's really shocking. And then, finally, we find out the exact location of where Metropolis is. Lex's computer map on the boat shows Metropolis in the real-world location of Bayonne, New Jersey.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact for Superman
Superman
Returns.
Any New Jersey fact is a fun fact.
Yeah,
It is.
I would agree
When
with
it
that.
comes right
I would
down
agree
to
with
it.
that.
I did want to say there's a review of it that I think sums up exactly how I feel.
Okay, go for it.
Superman Returns is lauded for its nostalgic elements, Brandon Routh and Kevin Spacey's performances, and its special effects. Yet it faces criticism for slow pacing, an underdeveloped plot, and a lack of chemistry between leads. Inconsistencies in the storyline and kryptonite are also noted. Despite these issues, the film is appreciated for its effort to revive the franchise and its homage to the original films. That really does sum up how I
that
feel
sums
about
it up. Yeah.
I'm just like, I loved those performances, but it's nostalgia mostly that, gets me through this film.
Yeah.
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 Because
I also want to say that this is a film that is an early version of a requel.
Yeah.
We've talked about requels on here before,
Sure
and
is.
if you don't know what a requel is, it's a sequel. It kind of moves the story forward, but it's a nod to the original film or original films. And, this is a great example of a requel because it definitely has a lot of those elements from the original.
And
Yeah.
they tend to be better oftentimes and more popular with people.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm so glad they didn't remake Rocky, but they gave us Creed. And we got 3 of them. 'cause
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
popular,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they were good. And the same with Jurassic World. Were they good or not? I don't know, but they were huge hits.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would say the same with the Star Wars sequels.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, Justin's favorite episode 8, Last Jedi, just loves that one.
Yeah.
Jesus, that movie. It's the worst of all of the Star
love
Wars
it
movies.
so
Like,
much.
it really is the worst of all
love
of them.
My experience of sitting in the theater and enjoying that film, I totally get why people don't like it, but I just turns you on your head.
You have a daughter, so you can appreciate those films that I cannot. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
But God, I hate that film. On a side note, Andor is some of the best Star Wars storytelling ever.
I haven't finished it yet, so don't.
Season
Yeah.
2 blows my mind. It blows my mind. It is so good.
I can't wait to finish
So
it.
good.
I'm a few episodes in.
You
so
need to go home and watch it all tonight.
I wish I could.
No,
I can't.
I'm telling you, you need to go home and watch it tonight.
kind of holding out for some weird reason. I had to finish Daredevil and Last of Us, and then I'll get to it.
Yeah, I haven't started Last of Us. Though it performed below box office expectations, not only did it outgross Batman Begins, but it was the second highest grossing DC film ever made at the time, after the 1989 Batman.
Huh.
Yeah.
Of course, it still cost 200.
Not fair though.
But
you know,
I wonder what it actually cost.
right?
Like maybe
if it was only 170 million,
right.
Okay,
Right.
All right, you make double that. It's like that's enough to get you a sequel,
Right?
You know. I don't know. The sequel was planned with Bizarro and Brainiac as possible villains. However, due to delays as well as film's massive budget and underwhelming box office return, it was canceled, and Man of Steel came along in 2013.
As we move forward through all of this, I am excited about Man of Steel. I remember liking that movie. I like Superman Returns, by the way. I think this is a good film. So I'm excited about Man of Steel. I think I only saw Man of Steel once, maybe twice. So.
I saw it once in the theater, went back and rewatched it a few years ago, and liked it much more the second time around.
I hope to have that feeling.
I watched it at the same time as I watched the third Batman, and I liked the third Batman much less on the rewatch.
Yeah.
So
I don't love the third Batman movie. Yeah.
Batman Forever?
No.
Nobody likes that one.
Right.
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Exactly. Though it was considered a flop, it was the highest grossing Superman film at that time until Man of Steel in 2013. And also Warner Brothers' biggest hit of 2006.
Yeah, Warner Brothers has had a hard time with these. I still say I think the DC IP is, there's something about it that's just tough. It's just a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
Batman as a standalone is great. I mean, I'm very interested in this Superman movie that we're going to get. You know, we've already talked about this. You know, there's other super people, obviously, in the movie. I am slightly concerned about that because we've always had Superman movies where he is it.
Yeah.
You know, other than, I guess, the Justice League ones now. So I guess now we're getting more of that stuff. But I don't know. I'm very, very interested to see that.
How would you rank? Okay, let's talk about the movies we've seen thus far. How would you rank them?
I'm having a hard time with the second spot. For me, the first spot is absolutely Superman the movie.
Yeah.
The original. The second spot, though, is somewhere between Superman Returns and Superman 2. I really don't know which one I like more. And definitely, if I'm going to say Superman 2, it's the Lester cut. So I feel like I have to go back and watch that one.
Okay.
Because we watched the Donner one, and it had so many problems.
Then 3 and 4.
So then it would be Superman Returns. I think I like Superman Returns better than Superman 2.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, I go Superman the movie, Superman 2, Superman Returns, 3 and 4.
And once, as I said it before, I go Superman 2, Superman 1, Superman Returns, 3 and 4.
Really?
Yeah.
2 is your top.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean,
the Lester cut.
We grew up with that one, and there was something about that one that was so familiar and fun. And
right.
I don't know.
It didn't have you turning back time.
It was Action City compared to the first one.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that I went to a Q&A? I posted this today. I went to a Q&A of Superman the movie, and Jack O'Halloran was there. He played Non.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And we did a whole podcast about Superman and Superman 2, and I neglected to bring it up.
How long ago was this?
2018.
Okay.
He's still going. He's 82.
Gotcha.
But
love it.
And then I looked him up. He's fun. He was a boxer.
Research?
I didn't know any of that stuff. Anyway.
All right. I have a game.
Oh, my God.
Which we'll see if Paul's any good at. Ooh. It's called Alive or Dead. It's not a joke. This is a game called Alive or Dead. And it's all people from Superman movies.
Oh, boy.
And I've crossed 2 of them off my list already.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Because somebody thought he came in doing You told us, Sean, Justin, yes, I'll do countdown with you guys if you do all the stuff and I just have to show up. And here he comes doing his research.
Yeah. I
Crying
just
out
know
loud.
stuff.
No, not cool.
All right.
All right. So we make it nice and easy. So obviously it's a lie. I read you a person. If you want, you can ask what movie were they in, and then you have to guess alive or dead. So if I were to say Christopher Reeve, you would both say
passed away.
Dead. Passed. We wouldn't say dead.
You can just say
We
dead.
would say passed away.
All right. Margot Kidder, Lois Lane.
She has died. She has moved on.
Yes.
Yes, dead. Terrence Stamp.
Terrence Stamp is with us. And we created, of course, the Terrence Stamp of approval. If I didn't mention that when we did Superman 2, as a phrase at the movie guys.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So if he's in it. It's worth watching.
Yeah.
All right. Ned Beatty.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that. I looked it up and I was like, wait, he's dead?
His son, filmmaker and guest on the Movie Guys. So look for a Thomas Beatty interview.
Valerie Perrine, Miss Tessmacher.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
I think she's alive.
I think she's dead.
She's alive.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry.
You're welcome.
Jimmy
You know,
Olsen.
people are like, when they're saying someone's dead on TV, they're doing apologies now.
Yeah.
Like they just don't go, oops. Sorry. They have to go, we want to apologize to Valerie Perrine because we said that she was dead when she's in fact alive. Like it's a whole big thing. I mean, I don't know. I think it's weird.
Yeah.
You just screwed up. Just say oops and then say, move on.
Oops, I did it again, just like Britney Spears.
Just like Britney Spears.
Well, if you did it twice.
Mark McClure.
Mark McClure's still going.
Yeah.
Jimmy Olsen. Alive. Susanna York.
Ooh.
Lara.
Which one is she?
Mrs. Jorah,
mother.
Mrs. L.
His mother.
Oh,
Mrs.
no,
L.
I think she's alive.
I do too.
Deceased. 2011.
Damn it.
Ooh, a while ago.
Annette O'Toole. Lana Lang.
Still going.
Yes.
Still going. Hot as ever.
Yes.
Robert Vaughn.
Robert Vaughn is dead.
Yes.
Yes. Nuclear Man himself.
Alive.
Mark Pillow.
Alive.
Alive.
Remember, he only has 4 credits on IMDb. Was it because he died young?
Nope.
No.
But he does have 16 credit cards.
Sadly, it was not.
They all say Nuclear Man.
Yeah, exactly.
I do that so I don't get in trouble with the bank.
Frank Langella.
He died recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have him as alive.
He's alive. He's alive recently.
I was like, is he dead?
No,
I
he
have no
was
idea.
recently seen risen.
He died, but then the people have seen him.
Richard Donner.
He's
He
dead,
recently passed away.
unfortunately.
Alexander Salkind. One of the 2 Salkind
Ooh,
sisters.
fair question.
I'm going to say alive.
I'm going to say dead just to be a contrarian.
Dead.
Ooh.
Ilya Salkind.
Alive.
Dead. They were 2 close twin sisters. Did not die close to one another.
Dead. Richard Lester.
He's dead.
Yeah.
He's alive.
Damn it.
Richard
How old
Lester.
is-
I mean, not damn it.
He's not that old.
when
glad
did-
he's
when did
alive.
Hard
He's
Day's
not
Night
that
come
old.
out?
I want to
Like
say it was 79 when I looked it
Hard
up.
Day's Night came out
Incidentally,
in like 66.
if Christopher Reeve were alive today, he'd be 73.
Wow.
There are some older Superman
Yeah.
movies. Like, how
Yeah.
cool would that be?
Yeah.
For in Elseworlds. David Newman, screenwriter of 1, 2, and 3.
No idea.
Alive.
Dead.
Damn it.
Deceased, 2003. Never got to see any other Superman films outside of the Christopher Reeve ones. His wife, Leslie Newman.
Alive.
What did she? Would she work on the movie?
She did.
Or no,
on
we're just
1
going
through
to
3.
the guy's family.
1 through
His cousin, twice removed.
How about Annette O'Toole's cousin?
Is she alive?
His name is Marty O'Toole.
She's above the line credit for Superman 4 or for
wow.
3 and 4. Excuse me, not 4. Just for
Lorraine
3.
Newman. What was her name?
Leslie Newman.
Leslie Newman.
Lorraine Newman.
Lorraine Newman is alive.
Leslie
as well.
Newman.
Alive.
Dead.
David's dead.
2021.
So
Damn
she.
it.
Yeah.
John Williams.
Alive.
Still going.
Sidney J. Fury, director
Of
Quest for Peace.
yeah, I don't know.
Alive.
Wait,
And doing television.
I think he's dead.
He's alive.
Oops.
and
yeah.
doing television.
And
Just kidding.
wrapping it all the way back around. Producer of Superman Returns and Superman Flyby and Superman Lives. John Peters, alive or dead?
Dead.
I believe he's alive.
He is still alive. That effer.
Wow. Wow.
There you go. That's all I got. I mean, I got a ton of other stuff, but we don't need to get
I
into
mean,
that.
I think that was good, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we have returned.
I really did appreciate this movie, and I liked it so much more the second time around, knowing that I wasn't going to like it. So it was like, oh no, I can like it now because I haven't been liking it for as many years as it has been. Like I said, the writers painted themselves into a corner, and how do you get out of it?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Without changing canon. Okay, we'll just make it real muddy.
I'm with you that I liked it more this time than the previous time. I just found it kind of flat previously and dour.
Right.
And this time it's still a little dour but less flat.
I will say this. This makes me want to see another Brandon Routh Superman. Oh, we didn't even talk about this. DC Legends of Tomorrow
Oh, right,
and the
right.
whole
Oh, yeah,
DC,
yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
Arrowverse.
Yeah.
I watched DC Legends of Tomorrow mostly because of Brendan Routh, because I appreciate him as an actor. He's just so charming and likable.
Yeah.
He basically plays Clark Kent the entire time. But I mean, it's just like those crossovers are fantastic. And in one of the multiverses, they actually come into, they meet up with him.
Yeah.
It's Brandon Routh's Superman, which is a ton of fun, along with Tom Welling's
That's
Superman.
on Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just great. It's just great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've never seen that, but it sounds awesome.
I would love to still see another Brandon Routh Superman movie.
He's young enough.
I was going to say, let him be older.
Yeah, he's in his 40s.
Yeah,
Isn't he?
Yeah.
So make an older Superman. Make him Superman, gray him up a touch, give him a kid.
Do some Kingdom Come.
Absolutely do some Kingdom Come stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this goes back to there are stories out there that would be new for the screen
Yeah.
that we could get.
Kevin Smith once said in an interview when they asked him to do the Superman Live scripts, he said, I'm happy to do it, and I'm certainly happy to cash your check, but I don't know why you're not going to the actual writers of comic books for this script.
Right.
They've done it. They understand it. They can do it.
Even if you give them first draft,
Yeah.
then you get screenwriters in to come and clean things up and
Right.
be like, okay, we got to get this by
Massage
done by
the
Act 1 or
dialogue,
whatever,
that type of thing. But let them do your scriptment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Any final thoughts?
I just want to say I really enjoyed this movie. I was so happy to revisit it. I was really happy to be done with 3 and 4. Those were really tough, and this was really fun. I'm looking forward to Man of Steel. I'm even looking forward to Dawn of Justice, even though I know it's not a great film, but I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm excited about visiting the Justice League stuff again, and this stuff is still very good.
Yeah. Paul?
They just have never, ever had Kevin Feige in the DC universe. It's clear.
Yeah.
Because he does vary from the comics, but somehow still puts out really cool stories.
Yeah.
Like Thunderbolts is very different from the comics, and yet still highly entertaining. So he has a magic gift for combining a bit of both familiarity for comics fans, but then you don't want to give them exactly what they know. I mean, in the comics, they are storyboarded for you.
Yeah.
So you could just make that, but no one does it quite like Feige. And,
Yeah.
and if someone's going to, it's not going to be John Peters.
Yeah. No, my gosh. Gosh. Those of you, we're not covering it here, the actual movie, but please, please, please go watch. You can even watch it on YouTube, The Death of Superman Lives. It's a spectacular documentary about this film and just how many things got wrong and Hollywood at its worst of just pre-production hell and people who don't have any idea what they're doing. Studio heads who have no idea what makes a good film. Yeah.
Yeah. Too caught up in the money and the spectacle.
100%.
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line.
And I'm going to put my print all over this. We're going to reinvent it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sean, who are you?
Oh, I'm Sean Blodgett of Creative Motion Entertainment.
I'm Paul Preston of the Movie Guys.
And I'm Justin Bowler of The World.
And don't forget, if you want the robbers to take a licking, call Super Chicken.